All right, we're going to do exercise 8-13. It's doing some journal entries. And this exercise comes in part A and B. One is journalize the transactions under the direct write-off method, and part B is journalize these same transactions under the allowance method. So this way you get to see the difference between the two methods pretty well. Remembering, direct method, you write it directly off to bad debt expense. Allowance method, you set up an allowance up front and then you write it off as counts come in, but not to bad debt expense, to the allowance. Alright, so let's just jump in and do part A first, which is journalize the transactions under the direct write-off method. So there's some transactions going on. As the year goes by, we're writing off some various accounts and reinstating various accounts, doing different things. And at the end of the year, we sit down and look through our list of accounts and then just write off the ones we're pretty sure are bad. So let's just get started. Journalizing, of course, we're going to set up our journal entries, right? Of course, as always, date, right? Accounts, and then we got debits and we got credits. All right. So let's just get started here. So the first part, we're going to do all these transactions under direct write-off. So that means every transaction is getting directly written off to bad debt expense. There's no allowance. So the first one is wrote off account of Dean Shepard, $84.50. All right, so that's a bad debt expense. It occurred on April 13th. And so bad debt expense, and that was an account receivable from Shepard. Okay, and the amount is $84.50. And that's it. We wrote it off. And expenses are debits, and we're decreasing the receivable, taking it off the books, so it's a credit. Next, on May 15th, received $500 partial payment on the $7,100 account of Dan Pyle. Wrote off the remaining balance. So Dan Pyle came in, said, I can't pay you, but here's at least $500. Sorry. Alright, so that means we have to figure out, okay, well, how much are we writing off? So we're not writing off the $500, right? So 7,100 minus 500 equals 6,600. Alright, so that's what we're writing off to bad debt expense. We're getting $500 in cash, and then we're going to credit the account receivable for Pyle for that whole amount. So that was May 15th. We got cash, at least a little bit, $500, and then sadly we have this bad debt expense of $6,600, and account receivable for Pyle is being eliminated, written off for the whole amount, $7,100. On July 27, we received $84.50 from Dean Shepard. So that's this guy back here in April that we wrote off. His account had been written off, reinstated the account, and recorded the cash receipt. So back here in April, we wrote it off. Bad debt expense, account receivable. So we have to put this back on the books. So to do that, we just flip this transaction. Right, and that's July 27. Account receivable is for Shepard, $84.50, going back on the books. You increase receivables with debits. And bad debt expense is going down. So we did that, and of course the second part is record the cash receipt. So he gave us $84.50 cash, the asset cash, right? Increases with debit, so $84.50 cash is our debit. And we're getting rid of that account receivable, so that's our credit. Okay, yay. Finally, it's the last day of the year. We go through all our accounts receivable. Maybe we see some have gotten kind of old. They haven't paid us. Oh, it's been 90, 120 days. They haven't paid us. Let's just go ahead and write them off. Start fresh for the new year. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 we're writing off. It says record as all one journal entry. And this is direct method. So we're just going to add these up. And so these total $13,510, right? So that's our bad debt expense, and then we have to write off each one of these separately. Still bad debt expense. It's just we're going to just write off a bunch at once. And I said that was $13,510. And then we just write each one. Account receivable Chapman, $22.25. Account receivable DeRosa, $35.50. Account receivable Galloway, $47.70. And account receivable Klatt, $12.75. And account receivable Ritchie, $16.90. And we're done. Man, that hurts writing off all those bad debts. If necessary, record the year-end adjusting entry for uncollectible accounts. Well, we don't have an adjusting entry because that's for the allowance method, right? So we're just directly writing them off when they're bad. So we're done. There's no setting up the allowance for next year. All right, so that's exercise 8-13A. The next video we'll do part B, which is doing the same exact entries, but as if it's the allowance method.